The massive arena on Valarax Prime stretched across 5 miles of gleaming metal and energy shields. Thousands of alien species filled the observation decks, their voices creating a symphony of sounds that no human ear had evolved to hear. This was the annual War Games tournament, where the Galactic Coalition's finest warriors gathered to prove their worth in combat. Commander Zalthar of the Grexians stood in the preparation area, his 4 muscular arms crossed over his barrel chest. His species had won the tournament 3 years running, and he expected nothing less than a 4th victory. Around him, other warriors prepared for battle. The crystalline Sharkath warriors hummed with energy, their bodies nearly indestructible. The void wraiths floated silently, their telepathic powers capable of crushing minds. The insectoid Kravix clicked their mandibles, showing rows of acid-dripping fangs. Then the humans arrived. Zalthar turned to look, as did every other warrior in the chamber. 5 humans walked through the entrance, moving with quiet steps. They wore simple black clothing, not the powered armor that most species favored. Each human carried bladed weapons that looked ancient and primitive. No energy shields hummed around their bodies. No advanced technology augmented their movements. They were small compared to most galactic species, standing barely 6 feet tall. One of the Sharkath began to laugh, a sound like breaking glass. Others joined in. Soon the entire preparation chamber echoed with laughter and mocking sounds. "Are these Earth's champions?" A Kravik warrior chittered. "They look like they would break if I breathed on them." Zalthar stepped forward, towering over the humans. The leader of the human group, an older man with gray hair, looked up at him calmly. His face showed no fear, no anger, only patience. "I am Commander Zalthar," the Grexian announced. "I have killed 17 champions in honorable combat. I have conquered 12 worlds." "And you are?" "Master Kenji Yamamoto," the human replied, his voice quiet but clear. Then he did something that made the entire chamber erupt in fresh laughter. He bowed. A deep, respectful bow. He bows. A void wraith's voice echoed in everyone's mind. "The soft-skinned creature bows like a servant." Zalthar sneered. "Earth sends us assassins who hide in shadows rather than true warriors." "How disappointing." The other humans stood silently behind their master, a young woman with sharp eyes, a broad-shouldered man with scarred hands, 2 others, one tall and lean, one short and compact. None of them reacted to the mockery. They simply stood, watching, waiting. The tournament officials entered, their holographic forms projecting across the chamber. "All participants prepare for the opening ceremony. The galaxy watches. Prove your worth." The opening ceremony was held in the central arena, where billions across the galaxy could watch through live broadcasts. Each species entered to thunderous applause. The Grexians beat their chests and roared. The Sharkath created dazzling light displays with their crystalline bodies. The Void Wraiths demonstrated their power by lifting massive stone blocks with their minds. When Earth's turn came, the 5 humans simply walked to their position and stood quietly. No roaring, no demonstrations of power, just 5 small figures in black clothing. The laughter started immediately. "Look at the primitives with their metal toys," someone shouted from the crowd. "I bet they don't survive the first round." Earth should have sent their battle machines, not these fragile creatures. The betting displays showed Earth's odds at the bottom. Most bookmakers refused to even accept bets on human survival past the preliminary rounds. One display showed the odds: Grexians 3-1, Sharkath 4-1, Void Wraiths 5-1, and way down at the bottom, humans 500-1. Master Kenji stood with his hands clasped in front of him, his expression unchanged. His team remained equally calm. If they heard the mockery, they gave no sign. The tournament official's voice boomed across the arena. "Warriors of the Galactic Coalition. For 3,000 years, these games have determined the finest fighters in known space. Only the strongest survive. Only the most skilled claim victory. Let the war games begin." The crowd roared its approval. Energy weapons fired into the air in celebration. War cries from 100 species shook the arena. Back in the preparation area, species began drawing their assignments for the preliminary rounds. The matches would take place across different environments: urban ruins, jungle terrain, orbital stations, and open wastelands. Each environment tested different skills. Zalthar watched as the humans received their assignment. They would face the Kravik swarm in a ruined cityscape. The Grexian commander smiled. The Kraviks were vicious and numerous. They would overwhelm the humans in minutes. Better luck in your next life, humans, Zalthar said as he passed them. Though I doubt the galaxy will invite Earth to embarrass itself again. Master Kenji turned to face him. For a moment, something flickered in the old man's eyes. Not anger, not fear. Something else. Something that made Zalthar pause despite himself. Commander, Kenji said quietly. In my home we have an old saying. The loudest warrior in the room is often the first to fall silent. Zalthar snorted and walked away. But the human's words stayed with him, creating an uncomfortable feeling he couldn't quite identify. The human team gathered in their private chamber. Finally, away from the mockery, they could speak freely. They think we're weak, said Yuki, the young woman with sharp eyes. Let them, Master Kenji replied. An enemy who underestimates you has already lost half the battle. The Kraviks will come at us with numbers, said Hiroshi, the broad-shouldered man. Acidic projectiles, overwhelming force. Then we don't fight them, Kenji said simply. We make them fight each other. We make them fight shadows. We make them fight their own fear. The team nodded. They had trained for years for this moment. While other species had grown comfortable in their strength, humans had spent generations perfecting the art of defeating stronger opponents. They had no choice. Throughout human history, they had always been the weaker ones, forced to find other ways to survive. Remember your training, Kenji continued. We are not here to prove we are the strongest. We are here to prove that strength alone means nothing without wisdom, strategy, and patience. The galaxy mocks what it doesn't understand. Soon, they will understand. Outside their chamber, the tournament continued. Species boasted and threatened each other. Bets were placed and odds calculated. Commentators discussed which warriors would provide the most entertaining deaths. No one discussed the humans. They had already been dismissed as an unfortunate joke, a waste of a preliminary match slot. In the vast betting halls, only one being placed a significant wager on Earth's survival. An ancient archon, a species known for their wisdom and long memory, quietly bet a substantial sum on the humans not just surviving but advancing. When asked why, the archon simply replied, "Because I have studied Earth's history. These creatures have been killing each other efficiently for millions of years. They have perfected the art of warfare against their own kind. Now they will show the galaxy what that means." But no one listened to the old archon. The galaxy had already decided that Earth's warriors were nothing but a brief source of amusement before the real competition began. They would learn otherwise very soon. The ruined cityscape materialized inside the combat arena. Buildings stood half-collapsed, their metal frames twisted and broken. Streets cracked and filled with debris created a maze of hiding spots and dangerous passages. Holographic displays showed every angle to the billions watching across the galaxy. The Kravik swarm entered from the north side. 20 warriors, each one 7 feet tall with 6 legs and 4 arms. Their exoskeletons gleamed dark green, and acidic venom dripped from their mandibles. They moved in perfect formation, clicking and chittering to each other in their hive language. The humans entered from the south side, 5 figures in black, moving silently across the broken ground. The contrast was stark. 20 versus 5, armored monsters versus unprotected humans, natural weapons versus simple metal blades. The betting halls erupted with activity. Fresh wagers poured in, all favoring the Kraviks. The odds shifted to 1,001 against human survival. "This will be over in minutes," one commentator announced across the galactic broadcast. "The Kraviks are known for their brutal efficiency. Watch how they use their acid to flush out prey from hiding spots." The countdown began. 10 seconds. 9, 8. Master Kenji stood in the center of his team, his eyes closed, breathing slowly. The other 4 humans spread out slightly, each one facing a different direction. They looked relaxed, almost peaceful. 3, 2, 1. The match began. The Kraviks surged forward, their legs carrying them rapidly through the ruined streets. They split into hunting groups, using tactics they had perfected over generations. Their sensors scanned for heat signatures, movement, sound. They found nothing. The humans had vanished. Not retreated, not hidden in obvious places. Simply vanished as if they had never existed. The Kravik commander, a massive warrior named Kreshtak, clicked commands to his swarm. They spread out further, checking every corner, every shadow, every possible hiding spot. Their sensors should have detected the humans easily. Human body heat should have shown up clearly on their thermal vision, but there was nothing. Where are they? a commentator asked, genuine confusion in his voice. The arena sensors show they're still present, but the Kraviks can't find them. In the observation areas, warriors who had been laughing earlier now leaned forward, interested despite themselves. This was unusual. Kreshtak moved his forces toward a collapsed building. It was the logical hiding spot, offering multiple levels and cover. He directed 10 of his warriors to surround it while the others provided covering fire positions. The Kraviks moved into position. Weapons ready, acid loaded in their biological projectile sacks. They prepared to flood the building with corrosive material. Then the first Kravik died. It happened so quickly that even the slow-motion replay barely caught it. A flash of movement. A blade appearing from seemingly empty air. The Kravik's head separated from its body before it could even register the attack. The body fell, green blood pooling on the broken concrete. The other Kraviks spun around, searching for the attacker. Their sensors showed nothing. Their eyes saw nothing. Another Kravik died. Then another, silent, precise, fatal. Kreshtak roared commands. His warriors formed a tight circle, backs to each other, weapons pointing outward. It was the standard defensive formation. It should have been safe, it wasn't. Something small flew through the air and landed in the center of their circle. The Kraviks looked down. It was a simple metal sphere. Before they could react, smoke exploded outward, filling their defensive circle. Their sensors went blind. Their vision disappeared into white fog. The humans struck from within the smoke. They had thrown the smoke device and then followed it in. The Kraviks fought frantically, firing acid in all directions, striking at shadows. They hit each other more often than they hit the humans. 3 Kraviks died from friendly fire before the smoke cleared. When visibility returned, 5 more Kraviks lay dead. The humans had vanished again. The arena fell silent. This wasn't how battles were supposed to go. Warriors fought warriors. Strength tested strength. This was something else. Something the galaxy hadn't seen before. Kreshtak had lost more than half his force in less than 10 minutes. He had never even seen the enemy clearly. Every tactical advantage the Kraviks possessed, numbers, armor, sensors, weapons, meant nothing against opponents who refused to fight in conventional ways. The remaining Kraviks moved into an open area, seeking safety in clear ground where nothing could hide. It was a mistake. Hiroshi, the broad-shouldered human, appeared on top of a partially standing building. In his hands he held what looked like a simple rope with a hook. He threw it and it wrapped around a metal beam. The Kraviks fired acid at him, but he had already swung away, using their own attack to collapse the building. Tons of metal and concrete fell onto the Kraviks below. 3 died instantly. 2 more were trapped under debris. Yuki appeared from a drainage tunnel, moving with incredible speed. She carried 2 short swords. A Kravik turned to face her, mandibles wide, preparing to spray acid. She was faster. Her blades found the weak points in his armor. The joints where the exoskeleton was thinner. The Kravik fell without firing a shot. The pattern continued. The humans appeared, struck with precision, and vanished. They used the environment as a weapon. They used the Kravik's own tactics against them. They turned a straightforward battle into a nightmare of shadows and confusion. Master Kenji himself appeared in front of Kreshtak. The Kravik commander was 3 times the human size, armed with natural weapons that could tear steel. He should have been able to crush the small human easily, but something in Kenji's eyes made Kreshtak hesitate. The human wasn't afraid. He wasn't aggressive. He simply stood there calm and centered, as if he knew something the Kravik didn't. "You fight with honor," Kenji said quietly. "I respect that. But honor without wisdom is just pride, and pride gets warriors killed." Kreshtak roared and charged, all 4 arms swinging. Kenji moved like water, flowing around the attacks. He didn't block the powerful strikes. He redirected them. Kreshtak's own momentum worked against him. The Kravik commander found himself off balance, stumbling. Kenji's blade touched Kreshtak's throat. "Not cutting, just resting there." "A promise, you can surrender," Kenji said. "Your warriors can live, or you can continue and they will die. Not because we are stronger, because we understand something you don't. Every battle is won before it begins. You lost this fight the moment you assumed you knew how we would behave." Kreshtak looked around. Of his 20 warriors, only 5 remained alive. The humans stood visible now, positioned around the remaining Kraviks. Not one human showed injury. Not one drop of human blood had been spilled. The Kravik commander had never surrendered in his life. His species considered it the ultimate shame. But he was also a practical leader. He could see the truth clearly. This battle was over. "We yield," Kreshtak clicked, his mandibles drooping in defeat. The arena erupted, not in cheers but in confused noise. Warriors shouted questions. Commentators struggled to explain what they had witnessed. The betting halls went into chaos as systems tried to process the impossible outcome. The humans gathered together and walked toward the exit. They didn't celebrate. They didn't boast. They simply left as quietly as they had arrived. In the preparation chambers, warriors who had been mocking the humans earlier now watched in silence. Commander Zalthar stared at the replay footage, watching the humans move. Something about their movements bothered him. They weren't just skilled. They were operating on a different level of combat understanding. "Luck," he muttered to himself. "The Kraviks are just insects. Any real warrior could defeat them." But deep inside, Zalthar felt something he hadn't experienced in many years. Doubt. Across the galaxy, the ancient Archon collected his winnings and smiled. The young species had much to teach the old galaxy. The lessons were just beginning. The tournament continued, and with each round, the galaxy's understanding of Earth's warriors shifted. What had started as mockery transformed into uncomfortable curiosity. The humans advanced through the brackets while species that had been favored to win went home in defeat. The second round placed the humans against the Grexian berserkers in a jungle environment. Commander Zalthar personally led his team, determined to restore his species' honor. He had watched the footage of the Kravik match dozens of times, studying every movement. He would not make the same mistakes. The jungle was dense with vegetation, humidity thick enough to slow most species. Trees grew hundreds of feet tall, their canopies blocking most light. Vines hung like natural ropes. The ground was soft with rotting leaves and hidden dangers. Zalthar had 10 warriors with him, each one a veteran of countless battles. They moved through the jungle in standard formation, weapons ready, eyes scanning constantly. The Grexians were known for their ferocity and their ability to smell prey from great distances. "Spread out," Zalthar commanded. "Use your sensors. The humans are small. They will try to hide. We will flush them out and crush them in open combat." His warriors obeyed, spreading through the jungle in a wide net. They would sweep the entire battlefield, leaving nowhere for the humans to hide. What Zalthar didn't know was that the humans had no intention of hiding. Strange. Sounds began echoing through the jungle, footsteps, voices, movement in the underbrush. The sounds came from all directions. Zalthar's warriors called out to each other, reporting contacts everywhere. Shapes moved in the shadows. Eyes seemed to watch from every tree. "Close formation," Zalthar roared. "They're trying to surround us." The Grexians pulled together, forming a defensive circle. But the sounds didn't stop. They grew louder, more frequent. It sounded like hundreds of enemies moving through the jungle. One of Zalthar's warriors fired his plasma weapon at movement in the trees. The shot struck a vine which fell to the ground. Attached to it was a small device that created sound and movement. A simple mechanical trick, but by then it was too late. The Grexians had revealed their positions and wasted energy firing at phantoms. Yuki crouched in a tree above the Grexian formation. She had been there for over an hour, perfectly still, controlling her breathing and heartbeat to levels that barely registered as living. She wore camouflage that blended perfectly with the jungle. Even her scent had been masked with local plants. She watched as the Grexians fired at more devices, at shadows, at nothing. They were exhausting themselves fighting an enemy that existed only in their minds. Master Kenji had taught them this technique. The human body could do remarkable things when trained properly. It could become almost invisible, not through technology, but through patience, discipline, and understanding of how predators hunted. Another human, Takeshi, sat buried under leaves and dirt 20 feet from the Grexian formation. He had been there since before the match started, having entered the arena early and prepared his position. He breathed through a hollow reed, taking tiny sips of air. His muscles were completely relaxed. To any sensor, he appeared as part of the ground itself. The psychological operation continued. The humans created the illusion of being everywhere at once. Every sound, every movement, every shadow became a potential threat in the Grexians' minds. Zalthar realized what was happening, but too late. "It's a trick. They're making us waste energy. Hold fire. Conserve your..." His command was cut short as Hiroshi dropped from a tree directly onto one of the Grexian warriors. The impact knocked the warrior down. Before the others could react, Hiroshi had struck precise blows to nerve clusters he had studied in Grexian anatomy files. The warrior fell unconscious. Hiroshi vanished back into the jungle before the others could even aim their weapons. Now the Grexians knew the humans were real, not just illusions. But they didn't know where, or how many. The psychological damage was done. Every sound became a real threat. Every shadow could hide a killer. The Grexians began firing wildly, their discipline breaking. They hit trees, they hit vines, they hit each other. Zalthar roared commands, but his warriors were no longer listening. Fear had replaced their legendary ferocity. One by one, the humans struck. They appeared from impossible positions, delivered precise attacks, and disappeared. They used the jungle itself as an ally. They used the Grexians' own panic as a weapon. Within 30 minutes, Zalthar stood alone among his unconscious warriors. He wasn't hurt. The humans had deliberately left him conscious, unharmed but defeated. Master Kenji emerged from the shadows, his blade sheathed. "You are a strong warrior, Commander. Your species is powerful and brave, but you fight like you expect your enemies to meet you face to face. You expect honor in direct combat. Not all enemies fight that way." Zalthar's forearms trembled with rage and shame. "You fight like cowards, like creatures that fear honest battle." "We fight like survivors," Kenji replied calmly. "My species learned long ago that the strong don't always win. The smart ones do. The adaptable ones do. The ones who understand their enemies' weaknesses do." The match ended. The humans advanced. The galaxy watched in growing discomfort. The third round brought an entirely different challenge. The humans faced the Mechron Collective in an orbital station environment. The Mechrons were cybernetic beings, part organic, part machine. They had advanced sensors, integrated weapons, and the ability to interface directly with technology. The orbital station was their natural habitat. They could hack doors, control life support, and see through every camera. The betting odds slightly favored the Mechrons, but less than before. People were learning not to underestimate Earth's warriors. The match began, and the Mechrons immediately took control of the station's systems. They sealed doors, monitored all sensor feeds, and tracked the humans through the station's network, or they thought they did. What the Mechrons didn't know was that humans had spent centuries fighting wars against their own surveillance systems. They understood that technology always had weaknesses. Every system could be fooled. Every sensor could be tricked. The humans moved through the station wearing simple thermal blankets that masked their heat signatures. They taped small heaters to maintenance drones, creating false readings. They used the station's own magnetic fields to disrupt the Mechron sensors. Yuki did something remarkable. She studied the patrol patterns of maintenance drones for the first hour of the match, memorizing their routes and timing. Then she hid inside one, folding her body into an impossibly small space. She controlled her breathing to almost nothing, entering a meditative state that reduced her life signs to near-death levels. The drone carried her directly into the Mechron command center. The Mechrons never suspected. Their sensors showed only their own drone. When Yuki emerged 3 hours later, she had accessed their central hub and introduced a simple virus. Not complex code, just a basic logic loop that made their targeting systems lag by half a second. Half a second was all the humans needed. The Mechrons fought with precision and coordination, but they were always half a second behind. The humans exploited this gap ruthlessly. They appeared where the Mechrons expected them to be half a second ago. They weren't there anymore. The match ended with the Mechrons defeated by their own technology, turned against them by warriors who understood that all systems could be exploited. After the match, the Mechron commander requested a private meeting with Master Kenji. "How did you compromise our systems? Our security is the most advanced in the galaxy." Kenji smiled slightly. "Your security assumed your enemy would use technology to fight technology. We used patience instead. We watched. We learned. We found the patterns. Your technology is advanced, but it's still predictable. Humans learned long ago that the most sophisticated system can be defeated by simple observation and timing. Word spread across the galaxy. These humans weren't just lucky. They weren't just skilled. They operated on completely different principles than any warrior culture the galaxy had known. Commander Zalthar, his pride destroyed, and his honor in question, demanded a rematch. He challenged Master Kenji to single combat. The coalition officials, seeing viewership numbers at record levels, approved the special exhibition match. The arena was simple. A flat circle 200 feet across. No cover, no tricks. Just two warriors. Zelthar entered wearing his ceremonial armor, carrying 4 plasma blades. He stood 8 feet tall, muscles rippling. The crowd roared its approval. Kenji entered wearing his simple black gi, carrying only a tanto blade, a short knife barely longer than his hand. He looked small and fragile next to the massive Grexian. "This time, human, you cannot hide," Zelthar growled. "This time we fight with honor. Strength against strength." "As you wish," Kenji replied quietly. The match began. Zelthar charged immediately, all 4 arms swinging plasma blades. He was fast despite his size, his weapons creating a web of deadly energy. Kenji didn't block. He didn't dodge dramatically. He simply wasn't there. He moved with minimal motion, letting the blades pass inches from his body. He studied Zalthar's patterns, his breathing, his weight distribution. Zalthar grew frustrated, swinging faster, harder. Kenji remained calm, moving just enough to avoid each strike. The tournament finals approached, and the galaxy watched with something new in their hearts. Fear. 3 species formed an unprecedented alliance for the final match. The Felkari hunters, masters of tracking and stalking prey across entire planets. The Void Wraiths, telepaths who could read minds and crush thoughts. The Sharkath warriors, whose crystalline bodies were nearly indestructible. Together they called themselves the Apex Predators. They requested special permission to fight as a united force against Earth's 5 warriors. The coalition officials approved. Viewership numbers had broken every record. The entire galaxy watched as Earth's strange warriors prepared for their final test. In the preparation chamber reserved for the Apex Predators, the mood was not confident. It was tense, nervous, almost afraid. Sarask, the lead Felkari hunter, paced back and forth on his 6 legs. His species had hunted the most dangerous creatures on thousands of worlds. They had never known fear. Until now, "I've watched every second of footage," Sarask hissed to his allies. "These humans don't fight like prey. They fight like something prey evolved to fear." A void wraith named Zelmoth floated nearby, his form shifting like smoke. "I can sense their minds from here. They're calm. Completely calm, no fear, no aggression. Just waiting. It's unnatural." The Sharkath warrior, called Diamond for the way light reflected off his body, hummed with energy. "My people's bodies are nearly impossible to damage. But I watched that human master defeat the Grexian without even drawing his weapon. Strength means nothing to them. They spent hours planning. They studied every human match, every technique, every pattern. They developed a strategy based on one principle. Treat this like hunting the most dangerous predator in the galaxy." The match environment was a multi-level urban warfare zone. Buildings rose 20 stories high. Underground tunnels connected different areas. Vehicles and debris littered the streets. The rules were simple, no restrictions. Lethal force authorized, victory by elimination or surrender. The Apex Predators entered together. 15 warriors total. 5 Felkari hunters with their advanced tracking abilities. 5 Void Wraiths with telepathic powers. 5 Sharkath warriors who could take incredible damage. The humans entered from the opposite side. 5 small figures in black looking impossibly outmatched. The betting had shifted dramatically. Now the odds were nearly even. The galaxy had learned to respect Earth's warriors. The match began. The Apex Predators moved in perfect formation. They had learned from previous failures. No one separated. No one acted alone. They maintained constant communication. They covered each other from all angles. Their sensors swept continuously. They treated every shadow as a potential threat. For the first hour, nothing happened. The tension was unbearable for those watching. The Apex Predators moved through the urban zone like a single organism, professional and cautious. The humans had vanished completely. Sarask led his team with careful precision. His hunting instinct screamed warnings, but he saw nothing. His sensors detected nothing. The Void Wraiths probed with their minds but found only emptiness. "They're here," Sarask whispered. "I know they're here. Stay alert." They moved past a building that appeared empty. Every sensor said it was clear. The Void Wraiths felt no minds inside, but Sarask's instincts, honed over centuries of hunting, made him pause. "Check that building again." he ordered. A void wraith named Kolrath floated toward the structure, his telepathic senses extending outward. He passed through the doorway, scanning every room, every floor, then he stopped moving. "Kolrath?" Saras called out. "Report." No response. The other apex predators moved toward the building, weapons ready. They found Kolrath floating motionless, his form flickering. His mind was still active, but something was wrong. His thoughts were cycling in an endless loop of terror. "What happened to him?" Diamond demanded. Yuki's voice came from somewhere above them. He saw what he feared most. "I showed it to him." The apex predators spun around, searching for the source of the voice. They saw nothing. How? Zelmoth projected his thoughts outward. "We would sense any telepathic attack." "Not telepathic." Yuki's voice came from a different direction now. "Simple visual patterns, timed movements, and understanding of how your species processes fear." "I didn't invade his mind. I used his own mind against him." Kolrath had been exposed to a carefully choreographed sequence of movements and patterns that triggered a cascade failure in his telepathic consciousness. Yuki had spent weeks studying void wraith psychology, learning how their minds worked. She had created a trap specifically designed for their unique mental structure. The remaining apex predators pulled together more tightly. 1 down, 14 remaining. They continued through the urban zone, moving even more carefully now. Every step was measured. Every corner was checked 3 times. Then one of the Sharkath warriors simply fell over. Diamond rushed to his fallen comrade. The crystalline warrior was still alive but unconscious. There were no wounds, no visible damage, but he wasn't responding. "Poison," Master Kenji's voice came from somewhere nearby, administered 3 days ago during a diplomatic meeting. Slow acting. Designed specifically to affect crystalline biology. Your bodies may be nearly indestructible from outside, but your internal chemistry still has weaknesses. The apex predators realized with horror that the humans had been planning this match for days. They had been poisoned before the fight even began. During a formal meeting that was supposed to be ceremonial and safe. "That's cheating," a Felkari hunter snarled. "That's strategy," Kenji replied calmly. "The match began the moment we knew we would face you. Everything since then has been preparation. You prepared for a battle. We prepared for a war. 2 more Sharkath warriors fell to the same poison. Diamond and the last crystalline warrior remained standing, but they could feel the toxin working in their systems. They had maybe an hour before it incapacitated them too. The apex predators changed tactics. They moved toward an open area, seeking safety and clear ground where nothing could hide. It was exactly what the humans wanted them to do. Takeshi appeared on a rooftop carrying what looked like simple metal projectiles. He threw them with perfect accuracy, not at the apex predators, but at structural weak points in surrounding buildings. The humans had spent the first hour of the match identifying these points, turning the entire battlefield into one massive trap. Buildings began to collapse, creating clouds of dust and debris. The apex predators' visibility dropped to almost 0. Their sensors became useless in the chaos. The humans struck from within the dust clouds. They had trained for years to fight in 0 visibility, using sound, touch, and spatial awareness. The apex predators, for all their skill, suddenly found themselves in an environment where their advantages meant nothing. Sarask felt rather than saw a blade pass centimeters from his throat. He fired his weapon blindly, hitting nothing. Another blade touched his side, not cutting, just marking a kill point. A third touched the back of his neck. "You're dead 3 times over." Hiroshi's voice came from right beside him. "But we're letting you live to understand something. We've been hurting you since the match started. Every position you took, every decision you made because we wanted you to make it. You were never hunting us. We were hunting you." The dust cleared. The apex predators stood in the center of a kill zone. The humans surrounded them, positioned at every advantage point. Every escape route was covered. Every defensive position was compromised. Sarask looked around and saw the truth clearly. They had been outmatched from the beginning, not in strength, not in numbers, in understanding of warfare itself. Master Kenji stepped forward, his blade still sheathed. "You fought well. You adapted. You worked together. But you made one critical mistake. You thought this was a battle. For you it was. For us it's what we've been doing since our species learned to hunt. You are strong warriors. We are survivors. And survivors do whatever is necessary to ensure their people live. Sarisk felt something he had never experienced in hundreds of years of hunting. True fear. Not fear of death, but fear of what these small creatures represented. A species that had evolved to defeat enemies stronger, faster, and more numerous than themselves. A species that treated every battle as a puzzle to solve rather than a test of strength. You don't seek glory, Sarisk said, understanding finally. You seek victory at any cost. No, Kenji corrected. We seek survival. Victory is just the method. Glory is what you chase when you're strong enough to afford pride. We learned long ago that pride gets you killed. The Felkari hunter did something no member of his species had done in 3,000 years of recorded history. He surrendered. We yield, Sarisk announced, his voice carrying across the arena. The humans have won. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as Earth's 5 warriors stood victorious over the most feared fighters in known space. The apex predators, undefeated for generations, had been systematically dismantled by creatures they had initially dismissed as weak. The tournament was over. Earth had won. But in observation chambers across the galaxy, military leaders and planetary defense commanders watched with a new and uncomfortable realization. If humanity could do this to warriors, what could they do to armies? To fleets, to entire civilizations? The tournament ended not with celebration but with silence. The massive arena on Valarax Prime, which had been filled with roaring crowds and confident warriors just days ago, now felt different. Heavier. More serious. Earth's 5 warriors stood in the center of the arena, not celebrating their victory. They simply waited, patient and calm, as they had been throughout the entire tournament. The galaxy watched through billions of screens, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. The Galactic Coalition's High Council called an emergency session. Leaders from the most powerful species gathered in the council chamber, their faces showing something rarely seen among galactic leadership: concern, and in some cases, fear. Chancellor Vexnor, an ancient being who had led the coalition for 3 centuries, addressed the assembled leaders. We invited Earth to demonstrate their warrior capabilities. They have done so. The question now is what this means for galactic security. They cheated, one council member protested. The poison was administered before the match. The psychological attacks violated the spirit of honorable combat. An old Archon, the same one who had bet on Earth's victory, spoke up. They followed every rule we established. We said no restrictions. We said lethal force authorized. They operated within our parameters. We simply didn't understand what those parameters would allow. But they fight without honor, another leader argued. They fight to win, the Archon replied. There is a difference. We have spent centuries building warrior cultures based on strength, honor, and direct combat. Humanity built their culture based on survival against impossible odds. We thought that made them weak. We were wrong. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some argued that Earth should be expelled from the coalition for using tactics that violated the spirit of warfare. Others argued that Earth had simply been smarter than everyone else. A few, the wisest ones, stayed quiet and worried about what humanity's capabilities meant for future conflicts. Chancellor Vexnor raised his hand for silence. Before we make any decisions, we will hear from the human team leader. Master Kenji has requested to address the council. Master Kenji entered the chamber alone, his simple black clothing a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and armor of the council members. He walked to the center of the room and bowed respectfully, just as he had when he first arrived for the tournament. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. That bow no longer seemed like weakness. It seemed like confidence so complete it didn't need to prove itself. Leaders of the Galactic Coalition, Kenji began, his voice quiet but clear. I understand there are questions about how my team fought, about our methods, about whether we can be trusted. He paused, looking around the chamber. Let me tell you about humanity. We are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest. We do not have natural weapons or armor. For most of our evolution, we were prey. Everything on our world was stronger than us. Everything could kill us easily, so we learned to survive by being smarter. We learned to observe, to adapt, to use everything around us as a tool. We learned to work together. And most importantly, we learned that rules of honorable combat are luxuries that strong species can afford. Weak species cannot. Several council members bristled at his words, but Kenji continued. You mock our weapons as primitive. But a weapon is just a tool. What matters is the mind that uses it. You say we fight without honor, but honor is a concept created by warriors who can afford to lose battles and still survive. We could not afford that luxury. Every battle our ancestors fought was for survival. So we became very, very good at winning battles by any means necessary. Chancellor Vexnor leaned forward. Are you saying humanity would use these same tactics against coalition members? Against allies. I am saying, Kenji replied carefully, that humanity understands something many warrior cultures have forgotten. The purpose of fighting is not glory or honor. It is survival. If threatened, any species will use every advantage they have. The question is, whether they have developed those advantages or neglected them while focusing on strength alone. He reached into his clothing and pulled out a data device. During the tournament, my team did something else. We tested coalition security. We identified vulnerabilities in defensive systems, communication networks, and military protocols, not to attack them, but to evaluate them. The council chamber erupted in outrage. Kenji waited patiently for silence, then continued. We found 17 critical weaknesses that hostile forces could exploit. These weaknesses exist because your species have grown comfortable in your strength. You built defenses assuming your enemies would fight the way you fight. You assumed honor and direct confrontation. But the galaxy is large. Somewhere out there are species that don't share your values, species that see weakness and exploit it, species that fight like humans fight, and when they come, your strength alone won't save you. He placed the data device on the floor in front of him. This contains everything we found, along with recommendations for defensive improvements. Earth offers this freely, as a gesture of goodwill and a demonstration that we are not your enemy. Chancellor Vexnor gestured, and a servant retrieved the device. The council chamber was silent as the implications sank in. You're saying, the Chancellor spoke slowly, that you could have used this information to compromise coalition security at any time? Yes, Kenji answered simply. But we didn't, because humanity didn't come to the tournament to prove we are threats. We came to prove we are valuable allies. The galaxy needs warriors, but it also needs strategists, scouts, intelligence operatives, species who understand unconventional warfare. The Archon spoke up again. What you're offering is to become the Coalition's shadow forces, the ones who fight battles that can't be won with honor and strength alone. Kenji bowed his head slightly. We offer to teach, to share our knowledge, to help defend the Coalition against threats you might not see coming. Not because we seek power, but because we understand that survival is not an individual achievement. It requires cooperation. It requires using every advantage available. A council member from the Sharkath spoke, his crystalline body glowing softly. You humiliated us. You poisoned my warriors before the match even began. You expect us to trust you now? I expect you to understand that we did exactly what we said we would do, Kenji replied. We fought to win. We used every advantage. But notice that none of your warriors died. None were permanently harmed. We could have killed. We chose not to. That choice should tell you something about our intentions. He was right, and everyone in the chamber knew it. Despite using lethal force authorization, the humans had left every opponent alive. Defeated, humiliated, but alive. Chancellor Vexnor made a decision. The Council will consider Earth's offer. In the meantime, I propose something unprecedented. Earth will establish the Coalition's first intelligence and unconventional warfare division. They will train willing species in defensive tactics against unconventional threats. They will serve as strategic advisors, and they will help protect the Coalition from enemies who don't fight with honor. The vote was not unanimous, but it passed. Earth had changed from being the joke of the galaxy to being one of its most valued assets, all in the span of one tournament. Later that evening, Commander Zalthar approached Master Kenji in a private meeting room. The massive Grexian stood before the small human, his forearms hanging at his sides in a gesture of respect. I don't understand, Zalthar admitted. How can you fight without honor and still call yourself a warrior? Kenji smiled slightly. Because I understand that honor without survival is just beautiful death. And death, no matter how glorious, still means your people lose. My species spent thousands of years fighting each other. We learned that the warrior who lives to protect his people is worth more than the warrior who dies gloriously in battle. But doesn't victory without honor feel hollow? Victory keeps your children alive, Kenji replied. That's the only honor that matters. Everything else is pride. And pride, Commander, is what caused you to underestimate us. Pride is what gets warriors killed. We abandoned pride long ago in favor of effectiveness. Zalthar considered this for a long moment. Will you teach me? Teach my people? Not to become like you, but to defend against tactics we don't understand? Of course, Kenji said. That's why we're here. To share what we've learned through centuries of survival. To help the galaxy understand that strength comes in many forms. The Grexian bowed, a gesture his species reserved for only the greatest teachers. Thank you, Master Kenji. After Zalthar left, Kenji's team gathered around him. Yuki spoke first. Do you think they truly understand what we've shown them? Some do, Kenji replied. Some will, some never will. But we've accomplished our goal. Earth is no longer seen as weak. And more importantly, we've positioned ourselves as valuable allies rather than threats. Hiroshi looked concerned. But we showed them so much. What if they use our tactics against us? Kenji smiled, a rare expression that held hidden depths. We showed them one blade, as the old saying goes. They'll never see the others until we need them to. He walked to the window, looking out at the galaxy spread before him. Earth has been preparing for galactic contact for generations. We knew we would be smaller, weaker, less advanced,